restaurant. But sitting with me is Reverend Adolf Davis, Superintendent Minister of the Tobago Methodist Circuit, and with him is Mr. Ucef Alexander, a committee member of a very special event they are having. So good morning, gentlemen, and welcome.
Good morning, Natalie. Good morning to the rest of the world.
Good morning, Natalie, and good morning to all those viewing.
And of course, before we get into this special event and why the Methodist Church is hosting it, Reverend Davis, I want you to share a little bit about the Methodist community in Tobago.
The Methodist Church in Tobago is, I think most persons are aware, one of the older, if not oldest, community in Tobago. And we have 10 congregations. We have been, over the years, one of our very significant influences in Tobago is regarding and involved in education in the schools. In fact, going back to, over 200 plus years ago, that had been one of the very prominent influences the church has had on the wider community. And also in really challenging people to a life in Christ. I think we have devalued over the years the importance of the church and church's message in calling people to a life in Christ and how it makes persons better citizens.
Right, definitely.
So over the years, the church has really been trying to reach persons with the gospel and enable people. So we have congregations in places like Olivet, or that is Lansome, Charlottesville, and up on the west in Bonaccord, Canaan Bonaccord. So we're spread out throughout the island of Tobago.
And let me bring Mr. Alexander, because you're a committee member of a concert happening.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about this concert, when it is, for people who are viewing and haven't heard about it but want to be a part of the audience of that concert. How can they be a part of that?
Right. First of all, the concert will be held on Sunday, this Sunday, the 28th of September at 4:30 p.m. at the Anne Mitchell Gift Library Auditorium at the Scarborough Library. It's a variety concert. We have singing, dancing, dramology, spoken word, pan. Tickets are only $100. They can be obtained from our church office, which is at Coiler Street, Scarborough. The telephone number there is 639-2476, and tickets will be available on the day of the event.
Right, but of course, viewers, if you can't get it before, your seat will be guaranteed. Don't wait until you are there to be told we're at capacity. And we want this concert to be at full capacity. So that's this Sunday, 4:30 p.m. We all know the auditorium, the Anne Gift Auditorium in the library in Scarborough. So, and either one of you gentlemen may answer this question. Why are you having this concert? Because we know it's a fundraiser. So what's the project, and what do you hope to accomplish at the end?
Well, we have sort of outlived the current vestry in terms of size. So we are working on building a new vestry.
Right.
It costs a tidy sum. So we are raising funds towards building our new vestry. Right? But we just don't want to ask for handout. We want to give you something of value for your money. And the concert will be of value for your money. It promised to be an afternoon of entertainment, and one that you will enjoy and will want to come back another time.
Right. Reverend, tell us exactly, because Brother Alexander, and we're talking church, so I'm calling him Brother Alexander, yes? Okay. Mentioned vestry. For those who may not know what that means, tell us. And he mentioned location, but you have 10 congregations. So zoning for us exactly where this project is.
Yes, Sister Natalie. The vestry is, well, we refer to the vestry really as, let's say, the back of the church, where you would sometimes have meetings and other activities. So not the main, some call it chancel chapel area, the main worshiping area. So it is that, let's say, multi-purpose section of the church.
Right.
So we are trying to expand that, one, to accommodate in terms of the choir, accommodate some of the office activities, and also our Sunday school. So, some places would have a separate hall or church hall.
Yes.
The vestry serves as a softer version of a church hall, because it's not a gathering place for big activities, but for small meetings and those kinds of things. So the current vestry is, some would say the front of the church or the back of the church, but it's behind where the pulpit is.
Right.
And so we are expanding that to be able to strengthen the ministries and give space for some of the other ministries of our church and meetings and so forth. The preliminary work has already begun, because if you pass that Scarborough, and that church in Scarborough is one of the very prominent and picturesque and historical sites. We have already done the retaining wall, and you see the space is already prepared for the expansion of the vestry. So we have done the preliminary work, and it's now to create that extra space at the back there. And so it really is to expand the ministry of our church and to create some opportunity for us to be able to do some other things as well in the building.
And I'm glad you mentioned, the historical aspect of the church and even how it looks, because one of the things I like to do is look at buildings and from yesteryear, because I think the craftsmanship is just awesome, and it tells us so much of then. And I think as a people, we don't appreciate history. We are quick to knock these things down, or, why don't we have school tours to the Methodist Church? Let them learn about the history surrounding things like that. So it's also an opportunity to be part of history, to help preserve for generations to come. So you can be a part of this. You can help build this vestry. Yes, there's the past, there's the current, and there's the future. So you get to help preserve what is there, but add on for the generations to come. So 4:30 p.m. Now, this concert, is it for a certain age group, young people? Can families come? Tell us a little about that.
It's for every and anyone. It's open to all, and it's really a very the kind of program. Of course, it's church, and so the kind of program we're doing is the kind of program that accommodates everybody, family, children. And in fact, the Scarborough Methodist School choir is going to be one of those performing. And if you've heard that choir and the children, it's fantastic. And I'll just mention something about the context in a moment, but you mentioned something about architecture, and I think one of the things we have lost over the years is an appreciation for how some of these older buildings were constructed, because the churches in the past were constructed to be very prominent and to be reflective of being the center of the community. Right. So even the high roof that made it a lot more visible. The idea was you should be able to see the church from anywhere. So
it was intentional.
Yes, because God was, and it was symbolic, because the idea was God is at the heart of this community. Right. So the churches were supposed to represent that. Of course, that came with a cost, and which is why it's a lot more challenging to maintain some of those older buildings, because I don't need to tell you how much more challenging it is to maintain those high roofs and so forth. Yes. So the addition is not going to compromise the current architecture. The designs have already been done and so forth. But the hope is that it will complement the current architecture and really have a wonderful building. And this is happening at the same time as well while we are celebrating Family Month. Okay. And so this month in the church we have designated as Family Month, and we've been encouraging families to play together and to pray together. And this Sunday coming we have a Family Sunday in the congregations. We have what we call a Bible reading marathon tomorrow on Zoom, where different families are going to be reading sections of Matthew's Gospel from 6 to 9. And again, part of it is because we recognize how important family is. I don't think we have recognized how family life has diminished significantly. And what that does, it damages the next generation, and it really compromises the well-being of our society. I say to people all the time, every criminal comes from a family.
Yeah, quite true.
And so when we're trying to fix the problems of crime and disrespect and all of those kinds of things, family, and if you ask the principals and teachers, you could see the impact of family on the behavior of a child.
Yeah.
Because most of the times when a child is very irresponsible and terribly behaved, sometimes when you have to deal with the parents worse than the children.
Right, unfortunately. But it's real, it's an experience we know well, you know. So of course, this concert is not just for the Methodist family, but for everybody on the island. As the Reverend said, we all belong to a family. We all, you know, come from somewhere. And just remind us, if we want tickets, Brother Alexander, how do we get the tickets again?
I said that this Cabo Church office, that's at Coiler Street, and the telephone number there is 639-2476, and tickets will be available on the day. As members of a church, believers in Christ, we cannot put out the misinformation. Now, on the ticket, you will see a performer, Carol Warner. However, she will be unavoidably absent.
Okay.
So I want to know the public to know that Carol Warner will not be performing.
And I love the transparency, so you're not getting set up. You know, some of y'all, this is just $100 and we're wrapping up. Some of y'all put out more money for other types of events, and when you go, the people who they say will be there, not there. This is not that kind of afternoon, all right? So just $100, even if you cannot go, you could contribute the $100. You know, nobody will say no, or you could give the ticket or leave it with one of the members and say, maybe there's somebody who really wants to go and can't afford it. I'm sponsoring that afternoon for them. So there's an opportunity for you to be a part of this. You know, help the Methodist Church, one of the institutions very important to the fabric of our society, and they are allowing you to be part of this experience. And as Brother Alexander said, they're not just coming asking you, but they are giving you something in return for your contribution. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you
yes,
very much,
Reverend.
Natalie.
And I think a number of persons would know other Methodists as well. So even if they don't get to the office, I'm sure there's a Methodist you can call who would be able to direct you to somebody at Scarborough to collect a ticket. And also you can call at the office if you want to contribute into the project, not only through the concert, but there are persons who may feel an attachment, interest, and obligation.
And they have more than the $100
And they have
to give.
more than $100. You can certainly call the office, and we would gladly receive that contribution as well too.
All right, so you got it. You heard it right here on Tobago Updates. Good morning, Tobago. Gentlemen, thank you for sharing, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Natalie.
Thank you, Sister Natalie.
Viewers, the time is going. So you know we have to run. We go for a quick break, and when we return, it's like the opposite. We're talking about Christ and, you know, the concert. And then our next guest, they are going to introduce us to something very different and interesting. So stay tuned, and when we return, you'll hear more about that.